Hi, I'm Divya. I want to tell you a story about a moment that just completely shattered my confidence as a parent. It all happened on a totally normal Tuesday, but it left this one awful thought just looping and looping in my head. Yep, that was it. That was the question. Is something fundamentally wrong with my child? Am I raising a kid who's aggressive, who doesn't have empathy? Am I just failing at this whole parenting thing? And it all started, like these stories always seem to, in a place that's supposed to be all about fun and happiness. So picture this. It's a completely ordinary scene. I'm at a playgroup, just chatting with another mom. My son Rohan, he was about 2.5 then, was right there, happily building with some blocks. Everything was totally calm, totally fine. And then, well, it wasn't. It happened so fast, I almost missed it. This other little kid who's playing right nearby just reached over and picked up one of Rohan's blocks. Super innocent, right? A totally normal toddler thing to do. But what came next was anything but. I mean, before I could even process it, before a single word could come out of my mouth, Rohan just hit the other child on the arm. There was no warning sign, no angry face, nothing. It was just one action, then the next. The block was taken and a hit was delivered. Bam. Instant. And then came that awful silence right before the crying started. The other child, of course, started wailing. His mom rushed over and she shot me this look. You know the one. And I was just frozen, utterly mortified. And the weirdest part, Rohan himself looked totally confused by all the chaos. Not mad, not defiant, just bewildered. Like he had no idea why everyone was suddenly so upset. Ugh, that feeling. In that 1 second, this wave of just pure shame and panic washed over me. So many of us parents know this feeling, right? It's more than just being embarrassed. It feels like you've failed on some fundamental moral level. And the only thought in my head was, my son is aggressive, and this is my fault. So, of course, later that day, the advice started rolling in. My mother-in-law, and she was totally well-meaning, I know. She told me, in our time, one tight slap would teach him never to hit again. Her words just tapped right into this old school belief that you have to stamp out this kind of behavior immediately, firmly, before it becomes who they are. The pressure, honestly, was just immense. But then I was up late one night, doom scrolling for parenting answers, and I stumbled on this idea that just changed everything. This is the big aha moment, so let's really get into it. The central paradox is this: what we call toddler aggression. It isn't actually about a desire to hurt. It's not a moral failing. It's a developmental challenge, all thanks to an immature brain. Okay, so look at how this breaks down. It's fascinating. In our adult brains, right, an impulse fires, maybe we get frustrated, but then our prefrontal cortex, the brain's CEO, jumps in and says, whoa, hang on a second, let's think about the consequences here. But in a toddler's brain, that same impulse fires and there's just nothing, no brake system. It is all gas, no brakes. The action just happens. I love this metaphor because it just makes so much sense. A toddler's prefrontal cortex, that brake system we were talking about, it's like a piece of software that's still downloading. The progress bar is like at 10%, and it's going to be downloading for the next 20 years. So of course it keeps crashing. So this all led me to a huge realization. Rohan wasn't hitting to be mean. He was hitting for all these other reasons that had nothing to do with malice. Maybe it was a communication breakdown, he just didn't have the words for, hey, that's mine. Or it was a total impulse control failure. Or maybe he was just sensorily overwhelmed by all the noise. The bottom line was, he was hitting because he was missing a skill, not because he was missing kindness. And that is why the whole one tight slap idea just doesn't work. When we punish a toddler for hitting, we're treating a skill deficit like it's a character flaw. It's exactly like scolding your computer because its software is still installing and it crashed. It doesn't make the download go any faster. It just adds a layer of shame and confusion to the whole thing. Okay, so this left me with a huge question. If the old playbook, shaming, punishing, spanking, is totally out because it's based on a wrong assumption, then what's left? What am I supposed to do? Just let him hit other kids? No way. The answer, I realized, was a complete shift in my job description as a parent. I had to stop being a disciplinarian, someone whose only job is to stop bad behavior. I had to become a skill builder, someone whose job is to teach the right behavior. My focus shifted from punishment to teaching. So here's what I started doing instead. I adopted this new framework, these 5 strategies that actually work. And what's wild is that the very first, most important step had nothing to do with Rohan's behavior. It had everything to do with mine.
The first thing I did was change myself. I had to consciously stop panicking. I had to stop feeling that hot flush of shame. Instead, I put on my detective hat. I just started observing. I started looking for the patterns. When was he hitting? What was happening in the moments right before it?
Seriously, I just kept a simple log in the Notes app on my phone for a week, and wow, the pattern became so obvious, so crystal clear. Rohan's aggression wasn't random at all. It was totally predictable. It was almost always about a toy conflict, or when he was tired and hungry, or stressed about a transition. He wasn't an aggressive kid. He was a kid whose self-control was still under construction, and it would just crumble under these very specific conditions. Get this. This number still blows my mind. Just by making a few simple preventative changes to his environment, like shortening playdates so they didn't go too long, making sure he had a snack before we went, the hitting dropped by 80%. 80, almost overnight. This had nothing to do with punishment and everything to do with prevention. But really, the most powerful tool was the mental shift inside my own head. When an incident did happen, that voice in my head changed completely. It went from, oh no, my son is a hitter, to, okay, his brain is still building here. This is just a sign that he needs my help learning a skill. That horrible shame, it was replaced with compassion and, honestly, a real sense of purpose. And then, maybe 6 months later, we had this amazing breakthrough moment. After a rare instance where he did hit a friend, Rohan came to me all on his own and said, I hit, I'm sorry, I should use words. He actually had self-awareness. He could name what he did, say he was sorry, and even identify the better tool he was supposed to be using. That, right there, was the result of teaching. It was never going to come from shaming. So you see, the hitting didn't stop because he was scared of getting in trouble. It just faded away. It became obsolete. Because his brain, with my help, had finally built better, more effective pathways. The behavior wasn't punished away. It was outgrown. It was replaced by actual skills that we had worked on together. So I really want to leave you with this one thought. What if we started looking at our kids' worst behaviors? The hitting, the tantrums, all of it. Not as a problem, but as a roadmap. A map that points us directly to the exact skills they need us to teach them. What would change for you, for them, if we saw ourselves less like police officers and more like their most trusted teachers?